In my experience, life here in the Charles de Gaulle airport is not bad. I try to have a nice day and every day, but as I'm thinking and every day I thought in my future, in my past.
For 18 years, this airport bench inside Paris's Charles de Gaulle Airport was his home. Most people think he was trapped here, that he was a victim of paperwork, lost in the system. His incredible story even inspired the Hollywood film The Terminal, but the film never told you the strangest part. Mehran Nasseri was offered freedom. Multiple countries offered him a new life, and every single time, he said no. This isn't the story of a man who couldn't leave an airport. It's the story of why he chose to stay, a story that begins with a single missing briefcase. Mehran Karimi Nasseri was born in 1945 in Masjid Soliman, a city in Iran's Khuzestan province. His father was a doctor for the powerful Anglo-Iranian oil company, a detail that holds the key to the central mystery of his life. He grew up believing his father's wife was his real mother, a belief that shattered after his father's death. It was then that his family revealed the truth of his parentage. He claims to be born of an affair between his father, who was a doctor, and an English nurse, but he doesn't look half English at all. That revelation fractured his world. According to his story, he was cast out of the family home, a rejection that ignited a lifelong obsessive quest to find the mother he never knew. In the 1970s, Nasseri stated he was being targeted for his protests against the Shah of Iran. It was this persecution, he claimed, that finally drove him into exile. With the hope of finding his mother, he fled Iran, only to walk directly into a new kind of prison, a legal battle with no courtroom, no judge, and no end in sight. For years, Nasseri drifted between European countries seeking asylum, his sights always set on the United Kingdom, where he believed he would live life in his own terms and would have a new start. Finally, in Belgium, he had a breakthrough. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, granted him official refugee status. This status recognized him refugee under international law and was supposed to be the key to a new life. But despite this crucial victory, his path remained complicated. On 26 August 1988, Nasseri was at Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris, on the verge of reaching his final goal. It was there, he claimed, that his briefcase containing all of his documents was stolen. How he then managed to board an international flight to London without a passport is a mystery to this day. But he did. What would you do if you landed in a new country with absolutely nothing to prove who you are? When Nasseri arrived at Heathrow, he was met by British immigration. They asked for papers and he had nothing. No proof, no story the system would believe. Empty-handed, Mehran Karimi Nasseri was denied entry and immediately placed on a return flight to Paris. Without a passport, visa, or any form of identification, French authorities also had no legal basis to allow him in the country. At the same time, they could not deport him anywhere else because no country recognized him as their citizen without paperwork. He was trapped in legal limbo, barred from France, unable to return to Belgium, and rejected by the United Kingdom. His entire identity, to exist within a system, was in a single briefcase. And once it was gone, he was legally invisible.
Everybody is not my problem. When that man will come with official documents, then we will accept him. So it's his problem to solve all that. They are playing with it.
This complex loophole in international asylum and immigration laws left him stranded inside Terminal 1 of Charles de Gaulle Airport. No home to return to, no country to accept him, and no clear path forward. According to the law, the man didn't exist. But inside Terminal 1, he found one place where the law couldn't touch him. In the absence of freedom, Nasseri didn't lose hope. He built a fragile routine, and over time, waiting turned into a new existence. Mehran Karimi Nasseri gradually developed a daily routine that helped him adapt to life inside Charles de Gaulle Airport's Terminal 1. He made his home on a red plastic bench in a quieter corner of the terminal. This small space became his world, his bed, his living room, and his office, where he spent his days reading newspapers, studying economics, and meticulously writing in his diary. One journalist noticed the volumes of pages and states that there must be 10,000 pages there. Over time, observers noted that Nasseri's life inside the terminal began to follow a set routine. Airport staff and legal representatives described how he adapted to the environment, establishing daily habits that allowed him to function within a system that offered no clear resolution to his case. According to Anna Ramasamy, an airport worker and friend of Alfred, in a 1998 news report says, "I always see him writing with some boxes. I suppose he always has a lot of papers in his boxes. Boxes his whole life, in fact, for the 9 years he's been here. He used the airport's public bathrooms for washing and shaving. For food, he often relied on the kindness of airport staff, who provided him with meals from the staff canteen or leftover airline meals. They also brought him newspapers and magazines, which he read daily to pass the time and stay connected with the outside world. His days typically passed in silence, observing the constant flow of passengers, writing notes and thoughts in a notebook, and occasionally engaging in brief conversations with airport employees."
And this is loneliness and not too happy. But I hope the result will be a happy end.
With time, Nasseri became a familiar face, not just to the staff, but also to regular travelers. Some recognized him, others ignored him, but for most he was simply the man who lives here. To the staff and those who knew him, however, he was Sir Alfred, while to the world he would eventually become known as the Terminal Man. His presence became a part of the airport's daily rhythm, a fixture who would ultimately live there longer than some employees' entire careers. Doctors visited occasionally to monitor his health, ensuring that his long-term stay did not lead to serious medical issues.
His physical health is fine. His psychological state of mind is less good because there's nothing normal about staying in an airport terminal for 16 years. He's on the same record of life as the rest of us, but not the same track.
Meanwhile, lawyers, social workers, and human rights organizations tried multiple times to resolve his legal situation.
Alfred, do you want to leave the airport or not?
My destination is not clear yet.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave the airport without you knowing what you're going to do. I can help you. I can. These people, this place in Paris, they said that they can handle it. They're experts in it. You could go there. You could speak there.
I believe it's good.
Here's where the mystery deepens. Most people think Nasseri was trapped, just another victim of red tape. But the truth is far more complicated. He was offered the freedom multiple times, but what kept him bound to the airport? In 2003, a journalist asked if he felt angry about losing 15 years of his life inside a terminal. Nasseri's reply was hauntingly simple. "No angry, I just want to know who my parents are." It might seem easy to fix, just give Alfred papers and freedom, but the solution was never that simple, as Nasseri himself often rejected the offers because they did not match his desire to settle specifically in the UK or did not list his preferred identity details.
I have no country. I'm Geneva Convention refugee. The life, I don't talk about the life. Ending my time here in the airport and moving to the city, to the other country, I think it's possible.
In time, both French and Belgian authorities made efforts to resolve Mr. Alfred's unusual situation. French authorities eventually issued him temporary residency papers, which would have allowed him to legally enter France, live outside the airport, and even work. Similarly, Belgium, where he had originally been granted refugee status and helped, giving him the opportunity to return and resettle there legally. However, he refused to sign certain documents that were part of these offers. His reason was simple yet deeply personal. The documents listed him as Iranian, a nationality he no longer accepted or recognized as his own.
I said, true, I am not Iranian, and I said, I don't speak Persian. It's true.
It is true, the world offered him freedom, but it came with a price. The offer was freedom, but the price was his identity. Would you have made that trade? It's a choice with no easy answer. But his rigid new identity was only one of the walls he had built. The doctors who observed him daily began to see another: fear. Alfred has no reason to leave the airport, except for you, except for the police, the customs, the gendarmerie, the personnel of the companies and the societies of Terminal Number 1. Alfred doesn't interest anyone. He's an individual, a man without collective importance. He had become convinced that he was no longer tied to Iran in any legal or emotional sense. Nasseri wasn't just trapped in an airport, he was trapped inside his own story. Undoubtedly, 3 countries gave him the chance to begin again. But to accept, he would have to rewrite his story, erase his identity, and become someone else on paper. And that Nasseri would not do. So he stayed at the airport by choice. As the years passed, it seemed that life inside the terminal became more familiar and perhaps even more comfortable to him than life outside. The routines, the faces, the predictable rhythm of the airport gradually replaced any idea of what a normal life might be. Reported by journalist Andrew Donkin for The Guardian, every morning before the airport became busy, he would leave his bench and go to a bathroom where he would shave and wash. He'd buy breakfast from the McDonald's menu and a newspaper from the newsagent, then return to his bench and eat breakfast as the airport burst into life around him, after which came his real work, writing his journal. What had started as a temporary waiting period turned into something permanent, not entirely by force, but increasingly by choice. No authority could reshape his identity without his consent. Even Donkin acknowledged this uncompromising sense of freedom, remarking almost enviously, "I wish I was living free like you with no worries." In 2006, after 18 years, Nasseri's health declined. He was hospitalized, ending his life inside Terminal 1. Afterward, he lived in shelters in Paris. In his final years, he largely disappeared from public view. Yet in September 2022, he returned, back to the terminal that had become his sanctuary. And in November, he passed away there of a heart attack as staff and travelers watched over his final moments. Mehran Karimi Nasseri's story is a rare case of how bureaucracy, personal choices, and circumstance can intertwine to create a life almost unimaginable. But behind the headlines was simply a man who, for nearly 2 decades, lived his entire life in one of the busiest airports in the world.
He has no possessions, no home, no ticket, and no money. And now Hollywood has used his story as inspiration for a new film.
Mehran Nasseri spent 18 years in an airport, sacrificing his physical freedom for a principle he believed in. But what happens when a man has all the freedom money can buy, but is still a prisoner? That was the paradox of Pablo Escobar, the billionaire kingpin who built a life of luxury only to be trapped by the very empire he created.